Now cutting humor on the outside, joining Mucho Gusto, and has gone to the front. And now another twist of fate, lets loose and down the center, tries to run down cutting humor. Another twist of fate coming with every stride as they go to the wire. Cutting humor just got in from another twist of fate.
As they come for home with under a quarter mile to go, War of Will's in traffic and still well back and still a lot to do for War of Will with a furlong to go, and it's Spinoff who's taking a short lead from battling By My Standards, and By My Standards for Gabriel Saez. It's By My Standards and Spinoff By My Standards at 22 to 1 to win the Louisiana Derby.
On the inside, Code of Honor, and Code of Honor means business. He's into the clear. Hidden Scroll digs deep, but Code of Honor blows past, and Code of Honor is on to the front. And here's BOURBON WAR unleashing a big run down the center, but Code of Honor is going to hang on to win the Fountain of Youth 3/4 of a length over a flying BOURBON WAR second.
Widest of all is BOURBON WAR, but he's commencing a rally. Meanwhile, up front, they left Maximum Security alone, and Maximum Security cuts the corner and opens up.
Cortland Simmons with you here at the CS Racing Report Road to the Roses recap, looking at the Express Bet Florida Derby. 9 furlongs, $1 million, 100 points on the line, 40 points for second place, 20 for third, and 10 to the fourth place finisher. And of course, the buzz surrounding this edition of the Florida Derby for 2019 centered around Hidden Scroll. He was the beaten favorite in the Fountain of Youth after his rousing debut. First race of his career, 14-length score at the Flat Mile over a sealed, sloppy track. He failed in the Fountain of Youth after getting roasted in the early part of March with the sort of a 4th of July barbecue with Gladiator King on the front end in those rapid torrid fractions that ended up getting him cooked on the front end. And a lot of people felt that only losing by 3 lengths after such a hot early pace signified that at the 1.125 distance he would do better, he would be more relaxed, there wouldn't be as much upfront early pace, and that was the sort of the word in the street, that Hidden Scroll was going to prove to be the real deal in this race at 9 furlongs. He came in here against a few common opponents, Code of Honor, who had won that Fountain of Youth, over BOURBON WAR, who closed very, very stoutly in that 1.16 event, the major prep for this Florida Derby. And he was coming in along with Holy Bull winner Harvey Wallbanger, who did not participate in the Fountain of Youth. He was coming in off that win for trainer Kenny McPeak, and you had a couple of other interesting options in here. And what was interesting amongst the handicappers, all of them, or the majority of them, were picking, or they stayed on Hidden Scroll. Jockey change, Javier Castellano in the irons for trainer Bill Mott. Coming in as the favorite, Maximum Security was considered to be a horse that had impressed in his 3 wins after running for a $16,000 claiming tag, 3 for 3, about an 18-length score or 14-length score in his last effort at 7 furlongs, where he sparkled there, but a lot of people didn't think he could make the quantum leap from 7 to 9 furlongs against graded company. Well, what ended up happening in this race was the exact opposite of what a lot of people think. Is for anyone who checked out the preview podcast to this Express Bet Florida Derby, I didn't like Hidden Scroll going in here. We all know, if you dial back a few weeks, I loved him going into the Fountain of Youth, thought he could beat a lot of the horses in there, including the aforementioned common opponents. He did not deliver that day, and I just thought coming into this race that if he couldn't get things done at a 1.16, granted he was running against better competition and he was chasing a hopeless long shot in Gladiator King, who has since gone on to win the Hutchinson Stakes prior to this Florida Derby. What makes you think that a 1.125 that he was going to be more effective? The thinking was that he was going to be able to rate, relax, but coming out of the 1 hole, everybody knew that he was going to be sent, but that his natural speed would still put him in a better position, given that the pace wouldn't be as what we would call radioactive, to quote Randy Moss, on the front end. And what ended up happening was people overlooked the fact that Maximum Security would press Hidden Scroll, or that the two would end up canceling each other out and duel each other into defeat. What was also conjectured was that Hidden Scroll was going to have the speed to outrun Maximum Security no matter what he decided to do, whether he decided to go for the lead coming out of the number 7 hole, whether he wanted to stalk Hidden Scroll. The advantage was in the minds of many basically being anointed to Hidden Scroll. And what ended up happening was, coming out of the gate, Hidden Scroll came out, broke sharply, but was taken back by Javier Castellano. And what ended up happening in this race, Maximum Security gunned out of the gate as expected. He's a speed horse. He was going to show speed. But one thing that I had said in the preview podcast is that he isn't a horse, a war emblem type that absolutely has to have the lead. But in this particular instance, he took advantage of the fact Hidden Scroll didn't seem to want the lead. The first quarter went in 24.42. The half was 48.98. Very reasonable fractions, not torrid, moderate. 112.90 on the far turn. And in this race, Hidden Scroll, from what a lot of the analysts thought, Javier Castellano had his irons in the dashboard, trying to basically restrain the horse, which can be absolutely dangerous, or it can be counterproductive when trying to discourage a horse from going as fast as he'd like. And what ended up happening on the turn, Maximum Security with BODE Express pressing the pace, went ahead, let out a notch, and by the time Hidden Scroll got going, really this race was over with. Maximum Security turned on those gears that I thought that he could turn over at this 9 furlong distance. He went into overdrive, kicked into another gear, accelerated very, very nicely, pulled away to win by 3.5 lengths in 148.86 for the 1.8 distance, punching his ticket emphatically to the Kentucky Derby for Gary and Mary West, who also own Game Winner for trainer Jason Service, brother of John Service of Smarty Jones fame back in 2004. BODE Express, Matt Bernier from the Daily Racing Form liked him to actually hit the board, and he did exactly that. He ran a very, very nice race and earned his way into the Derby. He finished second. He was 3.25 lengths in front of Code of Honor. Bourbon War was fourth. And then Current, out of Todd Pletcher's barn, ran a belated 5th. And then Hidden Scroll was the big disappointment, finishing 6th. Union's Destiny 7th. Harvey Wallbanger had no impact in this race. He was one of my exotic picks in the trifecta of superfectas that I outlined in the preview podcast. And then EVERFAST for Dale Romans finished 9th. He's off the trail. Garter and Ty 10th. And then Hardbell, who was 1 for 13 in his career and by all accounts really didn't belong in here. It certainly was confirmed as he picked up the rear. In looking at breaking down this race and what was the downfall of Hidden Scroll, who in the end turned out to have wings of gossamer, to quote Charles C. Canty when describing Arazi when he failed in the 1992 Kentucky Derby, in this race, the way I describe Hidden Scroll's trip, I think that they ended up, being overcautious in the thinking. Bill Mott and Javier Castellano, they jointly were overcautious. He got a good trip, but he had no punch. And really and some of that, it could be attributed to the fact that he was restrained and not allowed to run. What needed to happen was for him to show his natural speed, and if that put him on the lead, that's fine. If he was going to be stalking Maximum Security, who seemed to be ambitiously interested in having the lead, so be it. I think in the end, as far as where I sit, I don't think it would have changed the outcome. Maximum Security's got 12 gears. He's just a freak right now, and we'll see if he can translate that to the Derby, where most people think the pace will be a little bit faster. But one thing about him is he has an intangible benefit. He's intangibly talented in a way in which I thought this would translate with mucho gusto, and that he doesn't absolutely need to have the lead. Now, he may have to use speed. Post position is going to be real crucial as to how much speed he's going to use, and going the added distance, that's always going to be the X factor. No matter how much or how little speed you use, can you last the 10 furlongs? But he looks like he is going to be a very effective horse. But going back to Hidden Scroll, again, I think that the tactics weren't very, very good, but I just always felt like that he wasn't going to be able, even if he got out there and showed his speed, even with moderate fractions, that he wasn't going to be able to kick away and streak away from the closers or any of the stalk and pouncers or anyone challenging him on the lead. I also felt that Maximum Security was going to be in the best position that he could easily take the lead, which is exactly what happened, or sit and stalk the pace and then get into a cat and mouse with Hidden Scroll, with the belief that, at least I was in the minority that believed that he would actually outkick Hidden Scroll. That's exactly what happened. Hidden Scroll got a good trip. If he was a good enough horse, granted, he needs to show his speed, and he didn't quite get to do that, but he was still in a great position all the way around the racetrack, and he just didn't accelerate in this adjusted or plan B, or what most people thought would be plan A if he didn't go to the lead, and that was to be able to rate and sit off horses versus getting, as I said before, in that radioactive pace that melted him down in the Fountain of Youth. So really there's no real excuse for him. What I will say about him is he's still a talented horse. I think what Belmont may end up having to do is rehabilitate the horse and go around the edges and run in some other graded stakes, maybe even avoid trying to come back as soon as the Preakness, and maybe even bypass the Belmont Stakes, where I think his speed, if they decide to utilize it, no matter who's on the lead, let him run out there. If he's on the lead, he's on the lead. If he's not, he's not. But he's somewhere in a forwardly placed position to be more effective, and he could pop up in the Belmont, but my guess would be if that's going to happen, Belmont would put together a mini plan, a short, sort of accelerated plan, a condensed plan to run him in the Peter Pan or something like that. But I would say that for right now, Hidden Scroll is basically, persona non grata and really sort of a hot topic of the past. Meantime, BODE Express ran very, very well in here at 71-1 to finish second. Code of Honor, his run was very, very interesting. He was 3 wide all the way through there. He got outrun on the far turn on the backstretch and about 3.5 furlongs out when it looked like Bourbon War was a locomotive on the move, ready to really challenge and make this race interesting. And then he stalled. Sort of reminds you of Vino Rosso in the 2018 Jim Dandy, and he kind of is, it could be described, ran in spots. He sort of got outrun on the turn, had to really be hard ridden. Then he re-rallied and finished evenly. What ended up really happening, though, he was on the inside, got a good trip once he accelerated, then he drifted in the stretch. That indicates to me that either he didn't have his mind on his business or he was getting tired. And whether this will help him in the 5 weeks between the Florida Derby and the Kentucky Derby, you've got to believe that off this run, having to be hard ridden, and then once he got going, he drifted the way that he did after being basically in a good position on the inside. It looks to me like that he might not want that 10 furlongs. He looked like he really, really had to really go all out to be able to just to get third place. Bourbon War actually ran a pretty good race. His trip was really one of those where he was on the inside. He made that serious run where he was still on the outside, like in the Fountain of Youth, when Code of Honor got first run and got an inside trip, which always is the shortest way to home, theoretically. The same thing happened, but he really accelerated and looked like he was leaving Code of Honor in the dust and had his sights set on the leaders. And then he after making that serious bet, he just got outrun. By that point, with that kind of a pace where it wasn't Torrent and Maximum Security just basically cruising, he got outrun. He gamely came on in the stretch, though. He was no match for the top 3. He did come on a little bit to, close within 3/4 of Code of Honor. It was a decent run. To me, it was a more even run. He switched his leads a little better than in the Fountain of Youth. So I would say if there's an upside to the Kentucky Derby, maybe that if he can be a little more forwardly placed and make that kind of move on the turn of the Derby, he could contend. But I think that most people would agree right now that Maximum Security is your Derby contender out of the Florida Derby. I've always said that usually it's always one horse, possibly two, but it has been very effective in terms of that 1 star coming out of the Hallandale race and doing something in the Kentucky Derby or being a player. And Maximum Security looks like the horse. You never know, BODE Express could surprise. And Code of Honor, he's going to be talked about because of Shug McGahee. And he did run well. Maybe he could improve, but he looks like he's got a real uphill Mount Kilimanjaro to climb. He really kind of ran in spots. Had to be, as I said before, hard-ridden. And then once he went inside, he made his run. He went outside. And it looked like to me he was a tired horse. But again, this could be, the progression fitness-wise that'll get him to run a more peaked effort in the Derby. But to be quite honest with you, just like Hidden Scroll, just like I couldn't see him being able to streak away from these horses and be difficult or impossible to beat, I don't see Code of Honor being as serious a contender as I thought coming in. Remember, in my superfectas, my trifecta of superfectas, I had him finishing second in every single one of them. I just couldn't pull the trigger for him to win, even though I had Hidden Scroll in one of those scenarios winning the race. And my final pick was Maximum Security. So I kind of feel a little proud of myself that I actually picked a winner of one of the major preps. Now, where Maximum Security goes and how I will rank him, when we get to the Run for the Roses, if all goes well and there are no setbacks with him, we'll just have to sort of just, figure that out and see if he's going to be as highly regarded at that point as he was, as I thought he was coming into this. But a great performance, 148.86. Be interesting to see what the speed figs and the U.S. time form rankings or numbers will be in terms of this race. Now let's look at some other numbers. The exacta 7-8 of Maximum Security and BODE Express paid $514.20. The trifecta 789, which was, of course, as you know, Maximum Security, BODE Express, and Code of Honor, paid $552.85. And then the superfecta 7894, Maximum Security, BODE Express, Code of Honor, and Bourbon War. 7894 paid $3,493.80 US cents. So a very, very nice payout for those who are willing, that got lucky enough to hit those numbers. And then if you want to play the super high five, 78942, current finish fifth, $61,512.60. So someone got paid if they were able to get those magic numbers. So those are the numbers in terms of the 2019 Florida Derby. I would say at the conclusion of this, Maximum Security is a serious contender, but as to the extent of how serious he'll be, it'll all be dependent upon his training, how that post position will work out, and then ultimately when they break out of there, what's the pace scenario going to be? What's really a benefit or a plus with him is the fact he doesn't absolutely have to need the lead unless he gets all riled up going into the Derby day, too keyed up, too highly strung, and he ends up getting rank and he just wants to be out there and doesn't want to slow down and ends up compromising himself for the drive in the stretch. Those are the things that could be counterproductive and negative to his chances of being a contender in the 2019 Kentucky Derby. But for the time being, he wins the Florida Derby in 148.86 by 3.5 lengths over BODE Express with Code of Honor third and Bourbon War fourth. Maximum Security, the 2019 winner of the Express Bet Florida Derby.
And now here we are, getting to the last Saturday in March with the goal of getting to the first Saturday in May. The Grade 1 Florida Derby is upon us. Who would have thought at the beginning of this meet we'd even be thinking of a horse like that? Maximum Security moving into line for the Grade 1 Florida Derby. He made his debut on a maiden claiming $16,000 race. He now sits 3 for 3, has been untouched sprinting. But can he take on some of the best in the country at a mile and an eighth? We're about to find out. Union's Destiny is called it a day. Garter and Tiles wide. Widest of all is Bourbon War, but he's commencing a rally. Meanwhile, up front, they left Maximum Security alone, and Maximum Security cuts the corner and opens up. Maximum Security less than a quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 on top. Second is BODE Express. He's running a huge race down at the inside in Code of Honor. Hidden Scroll at a one-pace. Bourbon War on the outside, but Maximum Security proves he's the real deal with a gate-to-wire win in the Florida Derby. BODE Express was second, Code of Honor finished third, then Bourbon War and current in 148 and 4. Maximum Security proves he's the real deal with a gate-to-wire win in the Florida Derby in 148 and 4.
Much ground. Union's destiny is called it a day. Garter and Ty is wide. Widest of all is Bourbon War, but he's commencing a rally. Meanwhile, up front, they left Maximum Security alone, and Maximum Security cuts the corner and opens up. Maximum Security, less than a quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 on top. Second is BODE Express. He's running a huge race down at the inside in Code of Honor. Hidden Scroll at a 1 pace. Bourbon War on the outside. But